Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, and thank you very much for tuning in today. And I'm sorry I've been absent for a bit, but if you've been waiting for this, hey, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Please enjoy this digital confection that I found for you. As I mentioned, I'm sorry it's been a little bit since I posted an ETCG 1 video, and I think by the end of this video you may understand why. And what I'm talking about specifically in this video is, well, everything that went down with the shop and the new shop and everything else. So this, I hope, will clear the air. I hope to cover all of those points. To catch those of you up who are just tuning in, I need to move out of this shop. It's been purchased by a new owner and he wants to use it for his own business, and well, he's allowed me to rent month to month until I, well, find another place. Well, that didn't necessarily work out, and well, I'm committed to move out by March 31st, 2022. So I should be out by April 1st, 2022 is probably a better way to say it. In the last video, I talked about some of the issues I had with that new landlord. We've smoothed that over, we've figured it out, and well, we're moving on. I'm able to stay here. I've paid my rent through the rest of March, so March is my month. I'm not going to get any harassment or anything until after that date, but I plan to be long gone by then. Now, how did we get here? Well, also, in addition to this place being bought, 2 years ago, I went to a local business park, which just happens to be around the corner from where my shop is now. And I went in there just on a whim because I had a sign out front that says space available. And I thought, well, why not just check it out? Why not see what's out there besides what I'm in? So I did exactly that. And I talked to the owner of that business park and we sat down. And at that time, I gave him a deposit just because I realized it may be some time before I'm able to get into this business park. As I mentioned, this was 2 years ago. So this was March of 2020 that I actually signed that. But anyway, I made the arrangements with him, and I had believed up until early February of this year, 2022, that I would be moving into a 5,000 square foot space. That's what I had discussed with the new landlord. I'd said, you know what? If I'm going to make this move, I might as well go big. And he had a 5,000 square foot space that he was telling me about. And I was thinking, yeah, I could put 6 lifts in this place. There was a little bit of office space in there, but there was still, 4,000 plus square feet of workable area. Like I said, I could put 6 lifts in this place. It was plenty big, had 3 doors leading in and out. It was great space. It would have worked well. So I go in to sign a lease for this 5,000 square foot space, and he puts a lease across the table to me, and he's like, well, you're probably not going to be happy. And I'm like, what? He's like, well, that space that I was going to put you in is no longer available. Now, I mentioned this in the last video, but never mentioned why. These buildings are 10 or 11,000 square foot buildings, and they're split up into different sections. And this particular building was a 10,000 square foot building that was split into 2 parts, so 2 5,000 square foot spaces that could be rented. The existing tenant that he's had in there wants to take over the whole building, so the space I was going to move into sadly is no longer available. So what he did was he offered me a 3,800 square foot space that was probably 70% office space. So there was very little room to do any actual work. In fact, less room than what I have here to work. This gets a little bit worse, this 3,800 square foot space. Not only is it smaller, as I mentioned, but it also had a false wall along one side of it. What a false wall is a wall that doesn't quite go all the way up to the ceiling. It's basically so that the heat and cool can travel back and forth between the spaces, because one space most likely isn't heated. Well, what's on the other side of that false wall from where I would have had my shop is his landscaping company. So he's given them that space that was next door. So there's really wasn't room to expand over into that at some point. I asked about it and he expressed reluctance for that. So there's a landscaping company next door, and I'm over in my space shooting video. One thing I liked about the 5,000 square foot space is I went there and I actually talked to the guy who's been renting it, and it was quiet, like super quiet, like way quieter than it is here with all the trucks and everything moving around out front. This place was also quiet, but I had concerns. This is like February, so landscaping company is not really doing a whole lot of work there. But once they get going during the summer. Now, could you imagine I come into work one day, something like this is going on next door, and I'm trying to shoot video? Not gonna happen. It gets worse. In addition to that, the breaker box for that space is in where the landscapers were. So I didn't even have access to a breaker box. Like, say for instance, I trip a breaker with my welder, which I've done here a couple of times. I have no way, unless I go through that other business, to get to that breaker box in order to change that. Well, coupled with that, the two spaces share utilities. So in other words, part of the utilities go towards the landscaping company, the other utilities get split up and go towards the space that I was looking to rent. Not the most ideal situation. In fact, he even referred to it as the bastard space. I wasn't necessarily happy about this, as I mentioned. I asked if I could have a little time to explore my options, which I did. So this was beginning of February when I found this out. I spent weeks, a couple of weeks, looking around for different spaces. I even looked at a house with like a 50-foot by 50-foot garage out back that was outside of the school district, which was something I did not want to do, but this was like last-ditch scenario kind of thing. But the house had a cracked foundation and part of the floors were all uneven and everything, so that wasn't even a thought or a consideration. I also looked at a 23,000 square foot space, which the building was derelict, shall I say, or maybe even worse than that. And it wasn't necessarily in the best part of town. 23,000 square feet, I was excited about that. And the price was actually not that bad. And once I looked at it, I found out why. It was, as I said, pretty run down. And my fear with that property would be that I'd spend more time fixing the building and worrying about the stuff that I was keeping inside of it than anything else. So that was out. Plus, it was kind of a drive to get there from where I live now. Anyway, that one didn't work. There was one that I found that I really liked, which was also about 23,000 square feet. It used to be a metal polishing factory, and this thing had a gantry. It had a crane that went through the whole building. That's like, I don't know, 5 or 10 ton crane that you pick stuff up with. I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Honestly, it was a bit outside my price range, but it kind of didn't matter because there was already a deal in play for that property, so it wasn't an option. In other words, I looked and I looked. I even went to my friends that were local that have been in and out of just about every automotive shop in the city. He basically supplies like the nuts, the bolts, and everything else. Good friend of mine, we go way, way back. I asked him if he knew of any spaces or anything that was available. He let me know about the landlord in his business park where he is, and I talked to him, and well, he didn't really have anything available either. I also drove around and just cold called a couple of places that were local. I even found another business, an automotive business, auto repair business, that had recently shut down, but apparently that building was already sold. So I explored everything I possibly could locally and had no other choice but to go with this small bastard space that I was offered. I had agreed to meet this new landlord to sign the lease. Well, one of the issues that came up in a previous conversation between us was about those split utilities. I had concerns. Somebody's over there running up utilities. I'm not there all the time. I'm like, why am I paying for this electric over here? It's just not cool. Just everything about it was bad. During that conversation about that, he started to get upset. In fact, he kept insisting he was a man of his word, blah, 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 and all that. And I pointed out to him, if you're a man of your word, you don't tell me you're going to rent me a 5,000 square foot space and then wait till the moment I show up to sign a lease to tell me that's not the case. In my mind, he had to know about that before that day. You know, at least I think he did. And if it were me and I were in his position, I would have basically reached out to me and said, look, that space, that 5,000 square foot space isn't available. Let me know what you want to do. That's what I would have done. He didn't. He waited until I walked through the door to sign paperwork. And like I said, this hole just kept getting deeper and deeper. I thought, okay, I can work in the smaller space and, you know, maybe I could sort out the issues with the landscaping company next door. You know, I've got all these things going through my mind thinking, you know, all the workarounds that I would have to do before I moved a single thing out of this shop. And as I said, he started getting upset during this conversation and basically insisted, like I said, I'm a man of my word, I'm a man of my word. But again, if you're a man of your word and you offer somebody a 5,000 square foot space, they come in to take a 5,000 square foot space, you offer them a 3,800 square foot space. That is not being a man of your word. And that was in writing. That wasn't something he said to me. He gave me a lease to read over, and on that lease it says 5,000 square feet. He, like I said, got upset. In fact, got in my face a little bit. And that's where I was pushing back. I'm like, no frickin' way am I going to give my money to somebody who's trying to intimidate me and basically be a total dick. And there's no other way to put it. That's exactly what he was. And he just walked away anyway. So what's going to happen with all this stuff? Well, if you watch the Eric the Car Guy video that I'll link down in the description, you'll know what's going to happen to a lot of this stuff. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my tools and all my essentials into a storage space, which I've got a really great storage space. Megan has taken care of me, and I've got, cars that are stored there. I'm going to store parts of my shop there, and I'll actually paying less for storing the stuff than I am for renting this place, and there's no utilities that go with that either, so I'll be saving a little bit of money there. The money that I save, I'm going to put into a war chest, and I'm going to basically set myself up to where after my daughter graduates from high school next year, that I would be able to find, like, hopefully a piece of property out someplace with either a building that already exists that I can use as a shop, or a place where I can build my own shop. I'm to that point. I'm done renting from people. A lot of you said, Eric, you shouldn't be renting, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's my counter to that. If you want to keep your cost as fixed as possible, renting would be the way to go. And that might be the way to go when you start out. After you're established a little bit, then look into buying something. And I did look into buying this place. I've talked about this in other videos. I thought he was asking too much, and I thought the place was a little bit run down, not to mention the place has pretty much been taken over by trucks, which, as I mentioned, cause a lot of noise and stuff, and didn't really seem like a good deal for me. Anyway, like I said, I explored every option that I possibly could, and this is where I'm at. To be honest, I'm kind of looking forward to the break. This is going to basically affect Eric the Car Guy videos more than anything because, well, I won't have a shop to work. And I'm sure some of you are going to say, why don't you do them in your garage at home or driveway or something like that? I'm not going to rule out that possibility, but that's not what I'm intent on doing to start out. I'm just intent on keeping the channels alive. And we'll see how this all shakes out. But as far as me posting regularly, like every Monday and every Friday and stuff like that, especially over on Eric the Car Guy where I was doing repair videos, those videos are going to get spaced out. But I do have a stock of footage that I never got the opportunity to edit with the Fairmont build and also an Odyssey transmission rebuild that I did. Some other stuff that, well, honestly is from years ago, but it's still good footage, it's still good information, and I could put it together and put it out as videos in the time being. Like I said, once my daughter graduates from high school next year, I don't have to worry about staying in the school district. I can move out in the country, like what I thought I wanted to do to begin with. And, well, we'll go from there. So in the interim, saving money, looking for a new place, everything's going into storage. And I hope that gives you a better idea of how things went down. And in fact, I hope from that footage you saw that, it was far away in the back of the shop, but you could see that, well, he was awfully upset, and all I did was say words to him, like, this keeps looking worse and worse. Is this one of them, am I the a-holes? You tell me, am I the a-hole here, or did I make the right choice? Either way, I'm sticking by the choice that I made, but that's what comments are for. Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for your support over the years, and, well, like I said, I'm not going anywhere except for away from this shop. As far as what happens down the road, I've been in worse times. I am seriously not worried. In fact, as I said, I'm kind of looking forward to a little bit of a break of getting away from this for a minute and sort of resetting and figuring out what's next. So don't worry about me. I'm good. If you have automotive questions, ericthecarguy.com. Other than that, be sure to follow me on social media. I'm still going to post there as well. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you so much for listening to me today and watching, and I will see you next time.